All right, so we're gonna talk about Guild Wars 2. Should you be playing it in 2026? Now, there's a lot to sort of there's it's almost near infinite amount of sort of things you can talk about in Guild Wars 2. And with the recent news of Guild Wars 3, there's probably a lot of people that and are actually who have either picked the game up for the first time, come back to it, wondering whether or not it's worth the time if there is a new one coming out. So I just sort of wanted to address that and then kind of touch on briefly what's available in this game. Um, and first and foremost, that they have stated numerous times now with either Colin Jansen or Josh Davies that they are indeed going to support Guild Wars 2 for the very sort of mid to near distant future. At least 15 years that they're looking at to supporting Guild Wars 2. And that's really good, right? Because Guild Wars 2, I want people to remember this, is the future of the Guild Wars story. So anything that comes out in Guild Wars 2 is actually adding on to any future storytelling, for the game. So from a lore perspective, you'd want to be playing this. Now they have just recently announced that it's not coming to console, Guild Wars 2, and that the only way to play this is on PC. But then again, at the same time, if you ever get a Steam machine or a Steam Deck, I run Guild Wars 2 on a Steam Deck, it runs great. Those are your options as well. So there are some alternative ways to play Guild Wars 2 if you don't have a PC. But ultimately, it's definitely a game that is going to get the support, so you don't have to worry about that, and that's really good. Like that is like really really good news in regards to the future of the franchise. Guild Wars 3 is obviously going to be a prequel game. I don't know why they called it Guild Wars 3, just simply because it's going to probably confuse people thinking it's the sequel game, but it's actually not. It's set 1,000 to 1,200 years before Guild Wars 2, or is it even in Guild Wars 1 perhaps? So it's actually quite a big time jump into the past, back to a certain area, which you'll see here on the map, which will be Ore. So this area here in the new game coming out will all be brand spanking, spiffy and sexy and new, right? And while I have this on screen, they have noted that they are going to be taking a small break from doing expansions. They are going to give us a new map in Ore, so I'm assuming it's probably going to fill up the rest of this gap here, which would be great because it kind of feels like an unfinished island anyway. All the Monuments 2 is going to be coming out, which means that you can achieve achievements in Guild Wars 2 to unlock some possibly cool stuff in Guild Wars 3. But the real question is Guild Wars 2 worth it? Well, it's a free-to-play game now up to level 80. Obviously, there are a whole bunch of expansions that you can actually buy, and all the expansions that have come out so far is Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, Icebrood Saga, Ender Dragons, Secrets of the Obscure, Genthi Wilds, Visions of Eternity. And when you look at that on a map scale, right, obviously you've got a lot of core map around here, all up through here, which is cool. Icebrood Saga up through there, right, all the way down here with the Path of Fire expansion, and over here, right. And then of course you've obviously got Cantha, which is for those that used to play it, the factions area from Guild Wars 1. We also have the Secrets of the Obscure area too, which is nice, and of course the new expansion that's just come out, Astora. Here we just got a new map here with Eternity's Garden, and then of course we're getting another map later on let me check. It's coming out, should be technically coming out in about 82 days, right? Now, yes, I humbly believe it is, because there's no subscription fee, right? So even if you just play the original, right, there's a lot of content there for you to work through. But if you do get all the expansions, they are generally cheaper to buy than other MMOs out there, which is really nice. So that's very handy too. And there's a ton of content as well. Guild Wars 2 has done something really good since the beginning. A couple of things. I mean, probably more than a couple of things, obviously, but a couple of things that really stand out is the fact that you don't actually have any quests to pick up. In every single one of these maps, you have these heart quests that when you run into the area of it, it pops up on your screen on the right going, okay, feed the cows, pull out the worms out of the garden, you know, that sort of stuff. And you can do any of them or all of them, and it will fill up a bar. And once that bar fills up, you can then proceed to continue on and, you know, like you unlock the heart. You get access, obviously, to whatever the vendor that the heart is selling at, and that also goes towards your map completion. So unlike World of Warcraft, you have to go through portals to get to the next area, but the areas are so gigantic that it's not even an issue. Now, a couple of the things. You'll notice over here on the right, that's the heart. So there's a heart here I can do. Anytime you get close to an objective that you need or that thinks you might be interested in doing, it'll pop it up on the right. You also have down here what they call dynamic events, which means that these orange circles on the map, when you run inside of it, it actually means that you can start participating in the event itself, right? You don't have to join a group or anything like that. You can just simply start doing whatever it tells you that you need to do, and that's it. And then you'll get rewards based on, you know, how much you've contributed to that, which is really good, right? So there's no quest to pick up. As far as like character design, there's a lot of character customization in the game. If we simply jump out to character selects, and if we just quickly, I'll just show you quickly. There's 5 races to choose from, a total of 9 professions. So you got your Char, your humans, your Norn, your Asura, and your Silvari. And then each one of these characters, like the races, has their own capital city as well. And then, of course, you've got your 9 professions available to muck around with as well. Now, unlike Guild Wars 1, you can't actually dual profession. Once you create a character, you lock that character into their profession. That's it, and that's fine. But again, in this game, it's not too difficult to level up characters, whether you level them up in the World versus World mode or you level them up in the PvE mode, which is just you versus the environment. It's not too big of an issue personally, anyway. So once you've made your character, one of the things that I think is confusing sometimes for people is like direction, because normally we're so used to quests and things like that. Your story journal, so if you press H, you open up your story journal. This is literally your pathway, right? If you want to just play through the available story and stuff, this is how you do it. You have your My Story that you go through, and then you can actually acquire things like the Living Well seasons, which came in between that and Heart of Thorns. And then you can go on so on and so forth, all the way down that you can play around, right? Which is pretty cool. But it won't be enough to level you up. So every single one of these maps, right, that you play on, so we'll use Queensdale as an example, right? There's a completion mode to it. You know, finding all the waypoints, all the points of interest, all the vistas, all of these things you can just run around and explore and find. So this is where I think sometimes it throws people a little bit, because it's semi-sandbox, right? There are paths that you can follow, but it's also semi-sandbox in that regard. But again, there's a lot of people in the community that are very helpful. The wiki's very helpful, and so it's one of those games that once you realize what's going on, you'll be fine. But brand new, you might be like, "Ooh, okay, you know, I'm not sort of 100% sure just yet." Now, one thing that Guild Wars 2 also does very well is there's no vertical progression. Yes, you level up to level 80. Sure, you can get some gear like Ascended or Legendaries, but these particular pieces of gear or weapons aren't mind-blowing, say, in comparison to, say, if you're playing something like World of Warcraft. In this game, yeah, you might get that extra power, you might be able to put an infusion in, that sort of thing, but ultimately, you can play, and I mostly run around on exotics on all my characters. You can mostly play the game at pretty much almost every level without needing those items. Where Guild Wars really comes into its own strength is its horizontal progression system through the mastery track. Every single expansion, including the core game, has a whole bunch of things that, as you're running around the map, every single map has these mastery points here. And these mastery points go towards you eventually unlocking different mastery rewards for your character. Think of it like personal progression, right? So if, for example, in Heart of Thorns, the Itzel lore, I'm unlocking that so I can gain more knowledge or access certain things, or maybe chests, go to certain areas where I won't get poisoned. So these things, it opens the game up, including for the mounts as well, the mount system as well, which you can see here. There's a whole bunch of mounts you can acquire. These unlock more potential for not only your character, but for your mounts and for the world to you engage in. It's not a power thing as such. It's more just just like your own personal progression, or I don't know how else to describe it. That's kind of the way it is. Now, just quickly, while I got the mounts open, there's a whole bunch of mounts you can obviously unlock. There's a couple of flying mounts in here, like the Sky Scale and the Griffin. You've actually got a mount with the Siege Turtle, or the Turtle mount, which allows you to actually have another player like jump on your back and fire the cannons. So it actually works as a sort of an Uber. This is the Uber mount in Guild Wars 2, which is pretty cool. And there's a whole bunch. Each single one of these mounts has their own unique abilities, right? Which is really cool. It's one of the things I really appreciate about Guild Wars 2 is the fact that the mount system is actually, they took the time to make sure that, okay, these mounts need to be very different from each other and different from other MMOs. As you can see, the skimmer goes really slow over land. I haven't unlocked any of the masteries in Visions of Eternity yet, but over water, it picks up speed. It gets a lot faster, which is really, really good. And so it's a wonderful water mount for you to use as well, which is nice. So the mount system is great, and in previous expansions that have just recently come out in the last few years, they've looked at what, like the earlier mounts, like the skimmer and whatnot, and the folklore, and gone, okay, how do we fix this? How do we make this a lot more enjoyable for you to be able to use? And that's what they did. They took mounts which, normally were, just maybe only had a couple of abilities, and they made it so that they can make it so much better for you to be able to, enjoy and just run around on, and not feel like you only want to use one or two of the mounts because they're really good for just everything. So I really appreciate that. I hope with future Guild Wars 2 expansions, when they come out again, that they're going to look at further mounts, like things like the Raptor and the Springer, the Jackal, right? Even the Roller Beetle, stuff like that. Really sort of look at them and just expand upon them and make them like even better. So as far as like combat goes, in Guild Wars 2, the way it works is that your first 5 slots that you can see here at the bottom, these are all tied to your weapon. So whether you're carrying a main hand and an offhand, which is the first 3 abilities and then the last 2, 4 and 5, or a two-handed weapon like the spear, where all 5 abilities are on the single weapon. What this does is it allows you to have a bit of variety in gameplay, because you can have 2 lots of weapons running at the same time. So I've got a spear right now, I can swap to my greatsword and continue on battle. So now that's 10 abilities I've got immediately straight off the bat. And then what you have over here is every single character can heal, every single character can resurrect someone, and then you've got utility skills for 7, 8, and 9, which allow you to choose whatever combination you want. There's no right or wrong. It's like, you know what, I like using these skills, I'm going to use these ones. And that's really cool. And then of course you've obviously got your elite skills, which are a lot more powerful, and you can't use them as much, but they're elite skills for a reason. And the way it works is that when you play through the game, you get these things here called hero points. Every single map generally has them, as long as the expansions had a new spec added, like an elite spec. So what happens is that when you've got your 9 professions, you can then have sub-specs or elite specs. So for example, a necromancer has all 4 of these elite specs available to them. And so as you travel around the world, you get these hero points. These hero points you then spend in these circles. You unlock all of these abilities, which gives you not only the attack abilities that you just saw, but also passive abilities here that you can unlock as well. So you can really customize your character and your play style to how you see fit, what you want to have happen in the world as you're running around. and that's really awesome. And there's a lot of abilities. For example, for a necromancer, you have access to shrouds. So I have right now 15 abilities, 2 weapons, like 2 lots of weapons. That's 10 abilities straight up. I've got 5 active utilities and heal and elite. And then if I go into my shroud, I now have access to another 5 abilities. So that's 20 abilities just straight off the bat, just running around. Don't even get me started on the amount of stuff having access to on an elementalist or an engineer. Like, it's crazy, and they're a lot of fun. Most of the abilities you can activate any way you like, unlike something like World of Warcraft, where most of them are only tied to when you're targeting an enemy. In this game, you can just sit there and just aura farm, you know, to your heart's content with some of this stuff. It's pretty cool. Like, it is. I mean, it is pretty cool, right? You know, and that's great. So there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of fun to be had in figuring out not only the profession or class you want to run, but also the type of character that you design, and engaging with the world and whatnot. And it's very cool. There's a lot of content here. And because there's no subscription fee and no FOMO, you can come back to this content anytime. It'll still be there. It'll still be accessible. It won't be going away, which was, again, another concern that people had with Guild Wars 3 announcement. Will this take players away to Guild Wars 3? Maybe initially, maybe. But they're going to play, from what I understand, extraordinarily different. I still am going with the theory that Guild Wars 3 is going to be a Monster Hunter style game. So it's going to be a lot more lot more intimate encounters in the world. And I'm mostly looking forward to the story. You know, seeing what they do with the old world, which will then tie to Guild Wars Reforged, and then of course further to Guild Wars 2. But ultimately, there's a lot of content here. Now, if you are interested in things like doing things like daily quests and whatnot, they've got the Wizard's Vault in here now, which allows you to earn a currency called Astral Acclaim, and then you can come in and spend this on a whole bunch of different rewards. You can buy yourself more money. You can buy yourself mastery tonics to increase your mastery level. So rather than sitting there grinding away events, you can just buy these coffers here, and then just, you know, you get up different pieces of XP when you activate them, and as long as you got the mastery points, you can then, you know, learn some of this stuff without some of the grind, which is very cool, right? And of course, if you miss out on a current season stuff, so this stuff here, right, if you miss out on it, it goes into a vault. So you can come back and you can get old stuff. It's slightly more expensive, but you can come back and get some of the older stuff. So there is no FOMO in regards to that, which is great news, right? Now, the other thing too, if we want to talk about things like PvP, there is a PvP area. You can queue even in the PvE world for a match, or I'll just quickly show you. It might take a little bit. Before I do that, it's even got its own PvP lobby, but it even has its own reward track. So when you're fighting in PvP matches, you'll actually level up all these different reward tracks which you can select, and that's because you might be after something. There might be something at the end of that. You go, you know what? That's what I'm after. I want some of the stuff that's in that loot at the end and on the way there. So I'm going to work on that, which is so awesome. You know what I mean? Like, it allows you that freedom. So even in the PvP side of it, now there is a little bit of a trick. If you have a low level character and you're like, I'm curious, I want to know, you know, what it's capable of. Now, I believe you just get through the tutorial first, right? But say you make a human elementalist and you're like, you do the tutorial, you get outside the tutorial in the main game, and you're like, I want to see what they're capable of. Come to the PvP section. It levels you straight to 80 immediately, like only in this area. And what it does is allows you to access all your abilities. You can see everything that you have available to your character. You can buy some cheap weapons and see what the abilities are for that. You can check out all the traits and see, oh, okay, that's really cool. I didn't know I can do that and that and that. So that way, when you go back to the PvE world, you go, okay, yep, I know where my character's going. It's a nice little bit of a life hack you can check out, which is really cool. And there's also a section in here where you can actually jump in. So you've got training dummies, but you've also got a section too where if you jump into this area down here, you actually get flagged for PvP. So you can now start targeting other players that are down here, again, for you to test out what you've got. You go, you know what, I'm going to try out this build, see what it's like, and see how it fares, and whether or not, you know, it's good enough. So that's really cool. Like, so that's a nice little bit of a hack there, in case people aren't, you know, aren't entirely sure about a certain character or projected path. You know, is it going to be a boring character later on or whatnot? I don't know, right? So let's jump out. So, and again, you know, PvP is really good. There's no power or anything like that over somebody else. It's all normalized. So it really comes down to the abilities you've taken out, the traits you've chosen, and the weapons, you know, that you're wielding, and of course your own personal skill. So that's really cool. The other mode that we have in here is World versus World, which is your massive PvP / PvE world, where you do have NPCs. You got camps and sentry posts or outposts and castles, where you can take over as a team. You join a team when you first load it up. It asks you to join a team. You join a team, and then you can go around. And this is huge. This is just one map here, right? Mugaloo, Alpine Borderlands. You've also got this map here, this map here, this map here, and they're doing another one, a desert one, I believe, as well. There's also an Edge of the Mist area that you can run around in and just have some fun. So there's a lot, right? And it itself has its own unlock stuff as well, with different reward tracks that you can work towards. You get these points that you can use to increase the quality of a character. Again, as you can see, I don't play a lot of World versus World. I appreciate it. I really do. I think one of the things that holds me back a little bit with World versus World is it can be a bit confusing, especially for newcomers. And I just kind of hope one day that they might make it so, you know, you can just jump in and just join a group just like that. Now, you do have the option to find groups in this game. Just in recent times, they've added the ability to quick queue for fractals and raids. They moved the strike missions into raids, which was good. So that's something that I hope they eventually do with World versus World. You can actually search for groups. You can actually go, oh, is anyone doing Ender Dragons content in these particular areas? Let's see if anyone's doing anything. I think there was Echo Wild. You can join the event if you want. You can do stuff like that, and then you can teleport to the event or close to. But what they made here with changes with things like with the raids, I can go here, I can go find a raid quick play, or fractals, I can do it as well. I hope they do eventually do this for stuff like dungeons, because I think that would be great. And of course, something like World versus World, I think that would be very handy as well. Because while this stuff is great, you've got to advertise the group, then you've got to join it and stuff like that. I think it'd be kind of cool if there was a way that you could, you know, if you could make a group, or somehow it would create a group inside World versus World for you to be able to enjoy. And I'll quickly show you how the raid. I'll try fractals first. So all you do is you do that. You do start matchmaking, and as you're still running around the world doing stuff, it'll try and find people who also might be looking to matchmake, and eventually form a group, and then it will then teleport you to the location, which is awesome. There we go. So glad I could show this. So there really is a lot, and again, like I said, there's no FOMO, so you can just play it whenever you want. Again, I was fearful of Guild Wars 3 because I don't want one of my favorite MMOs to die. I think that's fair. You know, the amount of time you spend, the friends you make, the memories, the money, all of it adds in to like, well, is this game going to be dead now? Is this a game that's going to have no future, right? And just by all the comments coming out of arenanet and whatnot, that no, it definitely seems like they have independent teams working on each one of these, and that way, you know, we won't have to sort of ever, you know, worry about, you know, this game Guild Wars 2 or Guild Wars 1. Even Guild Wars 1 has its own team now, with Guild Wars Reforged, so that way we're always going to have content and updates and things like that, which is amazing. Oh, I've got so many ideas for updates that they could do, quality of life stuff for Guild Wars 1, that would truly just be amazing. To bring it in line also with what we experienced in Guild Wars 2. But at the worst case, you could download the free trial. You can either download independent launcher, or you could download the Steam client. And of course, if you also have an account on Guild Wars 2, there is a way to actually use the game through Steam to access your account. So, because if you don't, it'll just treat you as a fresh account if you load it up through Steam. And if you've already got an arenanet Guild Wars 2 account, but you can actually get around that. It's actually not difficult at all. Basically, it pops up a launch screen with the loader, and you just log in and off you go. It's just business as usual. But it's free to play, right? Obviously, you got to buy the expansions, but it's free to play, and that's one of the cool things about this. You can give it a shot. If you like it, cool. If you don't, whatever, it's fine. You know, I don't know if Guild Wars 3 will be free to play. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it might be buy to play. But again, you know, I guess we'll see. So anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think. There's probably a whole bunch of stuff that I could have covered or talked about. But as someone that still plays this all the time, I highly recommend it. And because there's very little things locking you in, like a subscription fee, where you feel like you've got to play if you're not playing it, it's like, oh man, I'm spending the money and you know, I've got to do something. You don't have any of that worry or fear. So, but anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think. Catch you next time.